but yeah, so as I was saying, last few weeks have been pretty heavy with the was it the murder of George Floyd on went viral, and then since then there's been a lot of like discourse about um, racism, racial injustices, police brutality in the US and like beyond as well, because obviously in the US is where you see it most. I don't know what word to use. I don't want to say most blatantly, but um, it kind of just dominates. Like once stop, I guess the crimes are so like in your face over there, whereas over here it's a little bit less overt. It's still pretty overt over here in certain cases, but it's a bit less overt. But yeah, so since then, obviously, a lot of conversations about race and stuff, a lot of discussions, a lot of supposed activism, if you can call it that for some people. But yeah, what have you what are your thoughts on everything? It's a bit of a mad question, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's not an easy one to break down.
You know what it's like? Yeah, I'll tell you. So I had a basically there was this letter that went around. This open letter. It went in the Independent because basically one girl that went to my school. I think she was 2 years below me, so I don't actually remember who she is. But her mum works for the Independent or something like that. So she was like, she wrote an open letter to her school and like other private schools about racism in like private schools or independent schools, and basically was like, because her mum works for the Independent, she was able to get it in the newspaper. And because of that, obviously all the schools were like shook because it's bad for their image to have a letter calling them out for being racist. So next thing, I'm getting emails from teachers, all this stuff here. So I had a Zoom call with my teacher, my old head of sixth form. It was me and my brother, and then my old head of sixth form, and then one teacher that used to teach my brother. And we went on for like 2 hours. And literally, the question was basically like, it was just the two of them, then two white teachers come in. They're like, effectively, it's like, yeah, so what do you think about racism? And we just had to back for 2 hours. Like, it was a good conversation. It was good, but yeah, it's a bit. I feel like sometimes with these kind of things, it's literally like white and non-black people just kind of look at you and they're like, so like, what do you think? And this is like,
tell me.
What do you mean? Where do I even start? Like,
yeah. No, I mean, one thing I have noticed is a lot more conversations around it have come up in the past couple of weeks. So my initial thoughts on it when I first like saw it, I mean, I didn't watch the video. I saw like 10 seconds of it when I didn't actually know what it was. So it got posted in a group chat and I just clicked into it. I was like, oh shit. Then I clicked out of it. But my initial feelings were like quite sad because I don't know, for me, it just feels like this stuff happens over and over again.
Too much.
And like, I don't know, man. There was just a lot of like sadness, like a slight feeling of like just hopelessness, because I feel like we always protest these things and then things don't change. Like this is the same situation that happened 5 years ago, and 5 years before that, and you know what I'm saying? And like
even 2 weeks before the George Floyd.
I'm going further back in terms of like the mass protests. Even like, I mean, the killing of black people by the police, that just happens all the time. And then it's just like, I don't know, everything like, it was just, for me, it was just a sense of like, is this actually like ever going to change?
Yeah.
So I feel like there was like a lot of weight due to that. And then it was great, obviously, to see people protesting.
Did you protest?
I went to one. Yeah, I think I went to the same one as you.
Oh, the embassy.
Yeah. I was there.
Yeah.
But obviously it was, and that was again nice because it was good to see so many people out, like supporting the cause.
I feel like with the embassy one though, I feel like a lot of people went to Central because I saw bare stuff on Instagram and stuff of like loads of people in Central, and I was like,
They marched to Parliament Square, no?
oh, they marched from the embassy to Parliament Square.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Because
Because
the
the
whole time I was there, I
police
was
blocked off the route to the embassy
like,
after a certain point.
okay, that makes sense. Because the whole
Yeah.
time I was there, I was like, because obviously I've never been to a protest before, so it was the first time I went. It was like not like what I'd seen on Instagram or on like online basically. And then I just assumed that maybe if it's actually like peaceful and nothing happens, then it's not gonna grab headlines in the same way. So basically I was just like, oh, this one turned out to be like properly peaceful and stuff. So maybe that's why it was not quiet, because there were a lot of people there, but it was just very, I'll say, orderly, which is good, I guess. But no, it makes sense if the bulk of people had marched to Parliament Square from the embassy. That makes sense.
Yeah. They had to because it got blocked off Parliament at the embassy. So yeah, I mean, it was great to see that, and like it's good to see like at least some changes are coming about. Whether that like overhauls the like system of racism is a different story, but at least the protests are causing some effects. So that was good. And then it's good that people are starting to like talk about these things a bit more. Like there's sort of like more of an people taking it.
Subject.
Yeah, and people taking it upon themselves to actually like, rather than just asking, to like actually think and try and learn about it. So that, I mean, maybe down the line we'll see like the knock-on effects of what's happening now. But yeah, I'm just always like a little bit pessimistic because we've all seen the same scenario play out many times before. Like even violent protests. It's not the first. Like I mean, however minimal the violent protest was, it's not the first violent protest.
I don't even like using the word violent because I don't think you can be violent by destroying a building, bro. It's a building. It's not a person. So I mean, I guess violence means, you know, like, I actually looked up the dictionary definition for violence because everyone was banging on about it. I was like, does this count as violence just because you're like smashing the window or something? I think it technically does according to the dictionary, but the dictionary is wrong, bro. Like they need to change that because it's not. There needs to be like levels to the violence because, bro, choking a man out for what 9 minutes.
I'm not even saying it's a negative thing that there were violent protests. Like violence is sometimes a legitimate means to an end. So like we can put it out there that sometimes it is. It's not like it's so like black and white.
I feel like there's like a negative connotation to violent, and I feel like what's happening isn't even actually violent. Like if you're gonna compare, it's like, bro, this isn't violent. We smashed the window of a shop, like compared to killing a man. Like there's a big difference.
Yeah, it's a cause and effect. It's a cause and effect.
Like because when people say violent and then they start throwing like riots and looting, all these words, and it's like, bro, like you're missing the point of everything. Like
thuggery.
You're just there, brother. You're just everything.
But what I'm saying is like, it's not even the first time that's happened. That happened in London. That happened in Tottenham in 2011. That happened in LA after Rodney King. That happened like
after Mike Brown.
Yeah. So it's just like, it just seems like it's a cyclical. It just keeps repeating. I'm seeing slow change, but like,
you know what it is, yeah. I remember when the protest started. Barack Obama put he wrote like an essay for some blog site or something, basically saying like you need both. You need the protest and the I guess the peaceful action of like politically trying to change the thing. And I feel like sometimes, or in the past ones that we've seen, I feel like the focus is always on the protest part, and then there's less on organizing in other ways to have like an actual sustained change, because you can't protest every day forever.
It's true.
And if you are protesting every day forever, that means your protests aren't working because nothing's changing. So I feel like there's less attention is paid to the other side of like, how do we actually sustain a change so that we don't have to be in this situation a few years from now, or a few months from now, or whenever it is. I feel like there's not enough attention paid to that. And so, yeah, that's why I'm also a bit pessimistic. I feel like I've become a bit of a cynic with these kind of things, which isn't good, but like, it's hard not to be cynical because there's like, so much fuck shit, man. So much fuck shit. And you're just like, bro, this world is fucked, man. Like, so much of it. Like, when you start actually thinking about how the world works, you're like, bro, this thing is fucked from head to toe, top to bottom. Like, even looking at America alone, it's literally like, it needs reform or like abolition of every system that they have. Like, prison industrial complex, flipping healthcare system, the police, like, bro, every system they have, educational reform, everything that happens there needs to be fixed. Which makes you think, bro, like, the task is so big that it's like, how do you even go about fixing it?
That's what I'm saying. It's so huge, so ingrained. It's difficult. It's difficult.
Bruv.
I'm happy that people have like taken this up as like a cause to like protest and struggle against.
Yeah. Same.
So that's definitely a positive. I'm hoping that it can be sustained. Yeah, as you said, like probably more in terms of like organization rather than protests. I mean, protests can be there, but obviously like just not the only thing. But yeah, I don't know. Pessimism is there a lot for me, but we'll see, man. Hopefully it can be sustained.
Yeah.
It would be a great thing if it could be.
No, I don't know. I'm in two minds because like, yeah, I'm like you. I didn't watch it when the video came because I feel like firstly I think it was when I think the guy's name was like Andres Breivik or something. He was an Australian like mass shooter. You know, the guy that he shot bare people in Australia, and then after that they changed their gun rules like away. So his mass shooting, he recorded it and put it on Facebook Live as if it was like a first-person shooter game. Like literally, it looked like Call of Duty. And so after that, I watched a bit of that and I was like, bro, you shouldn't. It's not normal to be seeing people die just like as if it's a flipping PlayStation game. And I kind of like took it upon myself to not watch them kind of videos and stuff because I feel like firstly you become desensitized to it. And like I feel like I'm already desensitized to it to an extent, but like you don't want to become so desensitized to it that you just kind of there's no reaction when you see this kind of stuff. So, and I also feel like I had a discussion with my sister about this actually because I feel like the like spreading of the like viral videos of someone dying. I don't know how I feel about that as well because I feel like obviously without it the whole protest and everything wouldn't have sparked in the way they did because if there wasn't the whole online outrage it wouldn't have translated into anything. So I guess you do need it to be recorded and you do need it to be spread to get a certain a certain reaction out of it. But at the same time I feel like there's no dignity for the man that dies or the person that dies. There's no dignity, there's no and it's not even like they ask his family, oh, can we share this video with everyone? It's like the video goes out. So imagine like you're his wife or his kid or something like that. Well, he's pretty young, but imagine you're his wife or someone like that, just on Instagram and you just see your partner or your husband or whatever.
Yeah.
It's pretty, so I feel like I know, because my sister said basically like, she was like, it's an unfortunate reality that like, it's necessary that it needs to be documented so that there's a reaction. So, but I was like, it shouldn't be, it's not on us to just make that decision of whether it should be spread and documented like that. And not only that as well, it's not on us. And also it's like, I was saying how I choose not to watch it and all that stuff and choose not to share it. And she was like, but by not sharing it, like you're like, look at the effect that happens when it is shared. So surely sharing it is something that like it's almost our duty to share it, kind of thing. I was like, that's not right. And also I feel like when you share it and stuff, because I'm like, bro, to talking to like white people and non-black people on this, it's like, bro, why this specific one have you suddenly been like, oh, like, bro, there's like 150, 200 names from the last flipping. Yeah. I actually Googled it actually. There was what 260 police killings, 268 police killings last year. Yeah. I forget how many were unarmed. I forgot now. But basically, I was like, well, so what is it? 261? You're like, oh no, man, this one's like, what is it like? Because I was chatting to Laz about this. I was like, I think it's this Corona thing. People are bored at home.
So there's like
a mixture of they're bored at home, so they kind of want to go out. They're bored at home, so they got more time on their phones. They're bored at home, so they're not, occupied with commuting to work or busy with X, Y, Z. So it's like that's the reason we're seeing this outrage in this particular instance, and that kind of that also adds to the pessimism, because I'm like, so once everything goes back to normal, everyone goes back to their day-to-day 9 to 5 or whatever, is it that it's going to be an afterthought again? Which I think is already the case. I think it's already the case. Like all the companies that did their black squares and whatever, and we'll get onto that in a second, all the people that posting their black squares and that, bruv, it's like they're back to business as usual, man. Like, and that's my thing. It's like it will always be an afterthought because the system isn't designed for us, and not only that, these companies, etc., don't even have black people working in there for it to be like not an afterthought. It's the same way, like, I'll be a good example. When we do the Hood Grammys thing, obviously the committee's all guys, so we always have to think, are we being biased towards men when we're doing our lists and whatever, yeah? But obviously it's an afterthought because it's not the first thing in our head. Because naturally it's just not going to be the first thing. Obviously it could be better. It should be like inherently in there, but like everybody has their biases and whatnot. And it's the same. So it's like these companies and stuff, like you can get at them all the time, but until they hire black people in high positions, it's always going to be an afterthought. It's never going to be natural to them to think, oh, and even when it is natural, or like even when they do think about it, they get it wrong all the time, bro. Like,
yeah.
I've got so many stories of flipping, even after this recent thing, like, one of my colleagues, old colleagues when I was working at Felix, yeah, and she's proper sick with this stuff, like ally activism and stuff, and I'll get onto allies as well because I've got a thing about them. But basically, like, she, as allies go, she's proper sick, like well-read, she educates people, etc. Yeah, but even her, she must have been messaging me about the thing. Yeah, she said something along the lines of like, oh man, I'm sorry for white people, like we're shit, kind of thing. And I was like, bro, you don't need to tell me, I get it. And stuff. And then she must have gone, it was a sunny day that day, and she was like basically telling me, that whole thing about check on your black friends and all that shit. So she was like, oh, like, go enjoy the sun, etc. Get that melanin popping. And I'm like, fam, you guys are just fucking corny with it, man. Like, and I didn't call her out on it because she's nice and be like, I know she meant well, but I'm thinking, bro, like, you just don't know how to not be corny with wrong when you do this stuff. Like, and like, I don't know, because it's like, I could have cussed her, but I didn't. And it's just like, there's just so many examples of stuff. Like even my head of sixth form, she was telling me she went on sabbatical last year. She went to Uganda on, basically my school has a few schools that they built in Uganda, helped to build. I think they helped to build like 3 schools out there. So she went out there to, check on schools, help teach a few classes, etc. And she wrote an article about the trip. And during my speech or my my conversation with her, I said, like, I was like breaking down all the problems of racism in our school. And I was like, it even goes down to just how you portray Africa, like portraying it as kind of a basket case, a charity case, kind of encouraging this whole white saviorism, sending a bunch of posh private school kids to come and help build a school when none of them have built anything in their life. So how much can they really be helping? Stuff like that, yeah. And then so she was all like, oh, give me some food for thought on the article. But she sent me the article to like proofread it. Afterwards, she's like, yeah, I made a lot of changes. Like, let me know what you think. And I'm thinking, number one, I'm not your black consultant. Like, you can't be like, oh, is this, have I crossed any lines here kind of thing? Number two, she is an English teacher. So you as an English teacher are asking me to check your work. And bro, the whole thing, unpaid as well, my ad, unpaid. I read it, it was calm. I said it back to her, I said, it's good. Take out the picture of the child soldier and you're good. And it was just like, fam, I don't know, because obviously she means well, because she wants to make sure that her article doesn't, push white saviorism, etc. Basically isn't unhelpful to the conversation. So I understand it. But even the way you go about it, like leaning on black people to do unpaid labor to help you, like, bro, what does unpaid labor from a black person, what does that sound like, fam? Like, I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I'm just like, it makes me, yeah, man, it's hard to keep any hope that things will actually change, like, and permanently change, because it's like, I don't know, I feel like it's inherent in some people to just get it wrong, in most people to get it wrong. And
yeah.
I don't know, because it's like,
it's a very like fundamental issue. But it's just a big issue to tackle. I've had so many conversations recently about how to tackle it. Like, you have people talking about like politics, about like buying black, like, so economics. You have things about like reform. There's so much like ideas, and I just feel like all of these will help. I recommend people to do them. But I don't see, maybe I'm cynical, I don't see it that alone as being enough.
I agree with you.
Like, I feel like the entire system, like everything would need to change, and so hard to get that. Like, just globally things would need to change.
But the thing is as well, I remember I think I said this to my cousin time back. I was like, things aren't going to change for a number of reasons, in my opinion. I think, and I don't want to be too pessimistic on this, because I don't want people to...
Yeah, we sound a bit cynical, bro.
I don't want people to leave and think there's no hope, because I've got some theories of what can actually help. Well, actually, there's two things, because it's like help in terms of having some progress, so black people aren't being killed in the streets by police. Yeah, that is something that can tangibly happen.
Yes.
But if we abolish the police or whatever, reform the police, whatever you want to call it, if we do that, I don't think that means suddenly racism will have disappeared.
No.
Or the system will suddenly start working for us, etc. So I think it's just one thing, and it's like, if we take that approach, cool, we'll have progress in the sense that once we tick that off the list, we've sorted out police brutality, if ever you could do that. Then we sort out like educational reform or whatever it is, yeah. But then it's like the list is endless. So there will be progress, but there will always be something else. So whereas having a system where the inequalities aren't inherent and don't need to be kind of revamped or whatever, I think that's a different task. And that I guess, like, essentially it's the tackling racism as an actual like thing is a different task to taking the individual, I guess, manifestations of racism as we see it play out today. So I feel like those things, stuff can be done, but the actual tackling of racism as a thing, this is what I said to my cousin. I was like, it's not on black people to fix it, because firstly, we've been trying forever. So history would suggest that we are unable to fix it, because we're able to fix certain things, and make it better slowly, but that doesn't mean it's fixed. So the onus is on white and non-black people, specifically white people, obviously, because they're the ones that invented the system, invented race as a construct, etc. So they're the ones that it's on them to fix it. But so when I say it's on them, I mean white people in general, and like governments, etc. But they've shown time and time again that that's not their main focus. That's not their number one interest. Even this whole thing playing out, where they're like, oh, as in, they, like, when I hear people say like, I didn't know, and all that stuff, or talk to your like ignorant friends, etc. It's like, to be ignorant, to still be ignorant, to me, it means you've just been sitting there with your like fingers in your ears, eyes closed.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I just feel like it's impossible. Not impossible, because I can understand that if you're older, for example, you might not be on social media, etc. If you get all your news from flipping, I don't know, the Times, the Sun, places like that, yeah, then I can understand why you might have a skewed view and stuff. But I don't know, I'm just like, the onus is on them to change it. And they've shown time and time again that they either can't change it or they're unwilling to change it. It's more likely the latter, like they're unwilling to change it.
See, only issue I have with saying like the onus is on them is kind of feels to me like white saviorism again. So that's the one thing I have. Like, it was like, there was that post where it was like, so there was some Banksy post. I don't know if you saw that Banksy post.
Oh no, yeah, bro, that guy.
Where he was like, bro, wait, like, people can't do this alone. Yeah, we need to be out in the streets supporting them, etc., etc. And it was kind of like, I mean, initially I saw it, I was like, I mean,
I liked it, but then after I liked it, I was like, nah, man, this guy's shit.
You know, when you deep it, that is again white saviorism. Like, it's putting yourself at the forefront of a racial equality movement that you don't have the right to lead. So
I don't think we need them to lead it, because, bruv, they can't. Like, they don't know what they do. They've shown it time and time again, bruv. Flipping, I saw it more from European influencers or whatever. Them painting blackface, like, to show solidarity.
Oh, that's just
like,
stupidity.
Bruv, clearly these people are not. They're not with it. Like, they don't know what they're doing. So
that's
so what they need is to humble themselves. But when I went on a rant on flipping Instagram stories like a couple of weeks back, because I was just getting vexed with all the fucking squares and the black squares and the you know what actually tipped me over the edge? It was the people sort of saying stuff like, oh, we're all in this together, like, let's not fight each other, kind of thing. It's like, nah, bro, if you do dumb shit like paint yourself in blackface, then we are all within our rights to criticize. Who are you to think you're above criticism because you mean well? In what walk of life has it ever been, oh, I didn't mean it, so it's cool? You can't go to a flipping court and be like, yeah, I didn't mean it. You're like, I had good intentions, so, let me off, kind of thing. That's not how life works, bro. Like, you should be open to criticism. So once that's then I was like,
bro, my thing with like, oh, the I had good intentions thing as well, yeah, is if you do have good intentions, then you would be open to criticism.
Exactly.
Because, like, to be intentionally fighting for something is to say, like, if you did something wrong, like, if you're saying that doing something wrong and getting like pushback on it makes you not want to like
do it anymore. Oh man,
then the cause is you're not fighting for the
deserve it anymore now.
You're not fighting for the cause, innit? It's a very individualistic
that's why
you fighting for self validation and you didn't get it, so now you're back out. So like, let's just like admit that
and that's my thing, because it's like, bro, if that's gonna be you, just keep it real, bro. We get it. If you don't care about black people, bare people don't care. We've already established that. So, but don't paint yourself as, oh man, like, I'm an anti-racist, blah blah blah. I just wish they would be nicer to me while I'm doing it. Fuck off, bro. Why should we have to be nicer to you? Like, what do you mean? And where does it say that everybody in the movement has to be best friends? Bruv, if I see another post of flipping, I saw a pinky swear, like a black hand and a white hand, pinky swear. They said love will beat hate, or whatever the flipping,
bro, so much.
The Desmond Tutu quote about love driving out hate, racism, all that shit. I said, what? So you're suggesting we pinky swear our way out of this thing?
Bro, so much like. And there was the things that you see around, like, oh yeah, like the white and the black kid running towards each other, and it's like racism is
you know what's
like,
the worst?
Not inherent. It's like that's not actually true.
Sorry to interrupt. The worst was the cops kneeling and all that stuff. Especially when they had the video of the New York precinct. They knelt the day before, and the next day they boxed some old man who was in their way. He wasn't even doing anything. He just happened to be in their way, but obviously he's old, so he's slow. And they shoved him to the ground, and like, he was bleeding out his head and stuff. And I'm like,
I saw that, yeah.
Yet they'll be like, oh, there's some good cops. And it's like, bruv, you're distracting, because the point is not about the individual police officers. It's about the system. If the system allows for 260 unarmed black people to be killed in 1 year, then the system is flawed. Regardless of, and if you're going to say that the system, the reason 260 unarmed black people were killed is because there are 260 bad cops, then the system is flawed. If 260 bad cops could just get into your system, bro, that's too many. Like,
system is corrupt, bro.
But people won't understand. Like, we're not talking about it's the same with this whole, when they say it's not a black versus white thing. Yes, it is. Because when you say it's not a black versus white thing, it's a good versus evil, then it means it's too easy for people to paint themselves as good. Because
Actually, that makes it, the other issue with it is it makes it like, people like, oh, I'm good then. So I'm not racist. I'm good. Exactly. But like,
that's the thing. This whole distinction between racist, non-racist, and anti-racist, bro. If you are a non-racist, you are a racist, because you're not helping to stop the thing. So you are complicit. Therefore, you are racist. So why do you need to distinguish and be like, oh, you know, all this time I've been a non-racist, but now I have to be an anti-racist? No, bro. All this time you've been a racist. Now you're deep in it. Please stop being a racist. Be anti-racist. Like, bro, it's so mad. Like, it's similar to the whole when women say men are trash. Yeah, I say, yeah, we are trash. Men are trash, because like, even if you personally haven't, you know, done anything, mistreated a woman or whatever, like, we're all complicit in this system.
It's the system put in place by men.
So what we have to recognize, that we are all trash in order to fix it. If we start thinking, but I'm one of the good guys, then you're going to amass enough people that think they're one of the good guys, because you don't need to ask other people whether you're one of the good guys. You just have to think to yourself, like, oh, I'm one of the good guys, so I'm cool. And then nothing gets done. It's the exact same thing. Like, bro, I'm getting heated, man.
I agree with you, though. I do agree with you. It's like, yeah. So, I mean, all of that's been playing out recently. But yeah, no, I did see the onus. I don't want to put the onus on white people. I do get what people are saying, like, white people they're in the positions of power, they need to change it. I get that. But at the same time, something doesn't sit right with me with saying, like, the onus is on them, like, because I don't think they know what to do. And I don't want it to be another situation of, like, white saviorism, which it could become.
I've got a good example. So, you know that thing I was talking about with my school? So my sister's school did a similar thing, but they wrote a letter specifically to their school. And there was a white girl, I think she's upper sixth now, so she's 18. And she got a bunch of, you know, people together in the school to write a letter. Meanwhile, my sister was already in touch with, like, a bunch of the black, black alumni from the school. So they were in the process of writing the letter. Yeah. Then this girl writes her letter, gets a bunch of signatures from, like, her friends and people at the school, whatever, and drops it on Facebook and sends it to the school or whatever. And it gets, like, reshared, everything, blah, blah, blah. Then obviously all the black alumni are like, oh, you should probably tell her to take it down, because we were in the process of writing our letter. And on the surface, that sounds like, oh, does it matter who wrote the letter? Like, as long as the letter gets written, blah, blah, blah. But number one, it shouldn't be a white person's voice that's being elevated. It's her voice, since she's the one that wrote the letter. So it's the white person's voice on the matter that's being elevated. Number two, her letter was shit. I didn't read it myself, and actually, no, I shouldn't say that, because I haven't read it, and my sister didn't use those words. But from her actions, I'm guessing the letter was shit. It didn't help with anything. Like, one of them All Lives Matter flipping letters, like, oh, we believe that racism is bad and we need to drive it out. But how? How are we going to do that? How is it manifested in the school? Oh, well, I don't know, because, like, I don't experience it. So then shut up. Stop talking. If you don't experience it, okay, we get it, the sentiment, the solidarity, everything. But why is your voice the loudest right now? So then my sister contacts the girl and says, oh, you know, we're in the process of writing ours. We've got some specific requests for the school. We kind of want to hold them to account, etc. Could you take it down? The girl's, like, arguing with her, kind of like, nah, listen, it's already been shared, but all this stuff, yeah. Next thing, My sister has to go on Zoom with the girl. Bear in mind, she's never met her because my sister left the school 5 years ago. So she's never met the girl. And the girls were 18, so she's born in 02. So already from that, I'm like, because, bruv, 2000 born plus, yeah, they're already tapped, bruv. Like, I've got a brother that was born in that year. I know how they are. So you just don't know, innit? And it's not your fault. It's not your fault. You mean well, all right? Like, you mean well, but it's not your fault. But you're in the way, basically. My sister had to go on Zoom with the girl for half an hour. And this is what I mean about, like, they're trying to help, yet you've got a black woman here doing essentially, again, racial consulting with you for half an hour for free because you won't flip and delete your post and let her then put their letter up, which is a specific letter with a black voice in it as well. So then are you really an ally, or you're doing it for your ego, or you're doing it to get praise or to show that, oh, I'm not one of the bad ones? Bruv, you are just as bad because you're in the way of the movement. You know what I mean? Like, and that's it, bruv. It's like, there's too many, I feel like and this is not even specific to racism or anything. I just feel like people's egos and sense of entitlement, it's too, like, people don't understand that something might not be about you. So just get out of the way.
Yeah. Like, it's not essentially get out of the way. It's more, okay, from my perspective, it's more fall back. Like propel the issue forward, isn't it? Like, I'm happy for you to be there supporting the cause, but you're not leading this cause. It's not your voice that needs to be heard right now. Yeah. Like, this is essentially a black matter. We need to be the people who are the spokespeople on this issue, because, like, we understand this issue, and it's not the same as saying, like, if you're not black, you shouldn't be involved. Yes, you should be involved. Everyone who believes in, like, a like fair, just society should be involved, but it's not your issue to lead. Like, just, like, fall back, take a supporting role, and just propel it forward. That's what you need to do in this situation.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So that's that was my thing.
What I was saying about, I don't think it's white saviorism, because the reason I said the onus is on them is because they have the power to change it.
So maybe a decision needs to be made by someone but I'm saying, like, even then, I don't know if that's onus, right? Because, like,
no, I think it is.
We're essentially gonna force the hand. Like, the whatever the thing is gonna, like, if it's a law, if it's, I don't know, a reform bill that gets passed or whatever, it might be signed by someone white, but, like, it's not that person who has brought the change around.
I guess we're debating semantics, because I'm like, for me, I'm like, the onus is on them, because if they are the ones that have to be signing the bill, like, for example, if you want economic racial equality, you need all the people at the top of the economic system, so all the CEOs of the FTSE 100 companies or whatever. Which, but imagine I found out, I don't know if it's true, I saw it on Twitter. Apparently, there are more white men named Steve that are CEOs of FTSE 100 companies than there are people of color. But anyway,
Steve isn't even the most stereotypical white name. What's going on?
But my thing is, if we need them to make the change for it to happen, because we can buy black as much as we want, all that stuff, but we don't have the power to change it because we've been pushed down for so long, basically. Like, if we look at, like, specifically America, the racial inequality is so inherent in the system, because when the system was devised, it was, like, designed to keep black people down. That's why you have, like, red line and things like that. It was designed that way. So, and that was what, over 200 years ago or something like that. So if that system is still there, it's either we revamp the system completely, like we kick them out and have a new system or something like that. I don't know if that's possible, because the numbers wouldn't suggest that we could do it. Do you get me? Like, to just oust them.
Well, some people have that point of view. Some people will have that point of view.
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen, because if we look at here, we're still 3 to 4% of the country. So even if you get every black person on the same page, which is another thing we touched on, because black people aren't on the same page because we're not a monolith. So how can you be on the same page? There's no movement where everybody's on the same page anyway. But I'm saying if you, in some miracle world, could have every black person on the same page, singing from the same hymn sheet, with the same objectives and the same methodology for going about it, we're still only 4%. So what, like, how are we gonna fix it? Like, it needs to come from the top almost. I don't know if about come from the top, but it needs to, like, the change needs to come from them. You get it? Like, we can push for progression and stuff so that it's easier to live in the West as a black person, but it doesn't mean that it's going to solve racism or solve the issues, solve racial inequality. Racism will still be there.
So what if they're not willing to make that change? Then what do you do?
So
then you've exhausted your options from your point of view, no?
That's why I'm very pessimistic. Nah, to be honest, so I saw on Twitter, Carla, someone tweeted him and said, "When's this shit gonna end?" This was like not long after George Floyd was killed. They sent him the videos and when's this shit gonna end? And he said, I wrote it down. It's on my laptop as well. I wrote it down, but it was something along the lines of, when Africa is militarily strong enough and economically prosperous enough to protect its or to protect its descendants, so the people in the diaspora, in the sense of I think of it similar to how in the US is like strong, etc., to the extent that that woman that came and knocked over that guy on his bike here didn't even get extradited for, like, charges, etc. Like, she gets protected.
I get what you're saying.
And it's essentially, the way I see it, we live in Babylon, innit? And you can't, like, regardless of, the fact that we've managed to build out this sort of Black British culture, or like, if in our specific case, we've managed to build out Black British culture, we've managed to build out, Black spaces in this country, etc. The country is always going to be a white country, unless something drastically changes. I think it's like, what, 80% white?
84%.
The whole country. So even though London is more of a mix, etc., the whole country is majority white. So it will, unless we manage to convince them that we deserve equal rights, which I don't think is going to be the case, because, bro, they treat us worse than dogs. So I don't think that's going to be the case. It's one where I feel like us in the diaspora have to take a more active interest in Africa, not on that stupid thing of going back and building up Africa and we're going to build a Wakanda and all that shit. That's dumb as fuck. Like, some of the dumbest shit I've ever heard about building Wakanda in anytime I hear them say anything about, but this is what I mean when people are so fucking corny, bro. Like, when Ludacris went to Ghana over Christmas, during the year of return stuff, the Ghanaian president was effectively just handing out citizenship. Like, people could come back and become Ghanaian citizens, which I think is really good. I think it's, encouraging people to take more of an interest in Africa, to come back, etc., whatever you want to call it. Man's doing the Wakanda salute after he's collected his passport and shit. It's like, bro, don't mock the thing. Like, don't mock the thing. Like, stop being so funny for 5 minutes. I beg you, please. Like T.I. when he was telling them not to riot in Atlanta because there's so many Black-owned businesses there, which is a good point. Like, if you're going to protest, if you're going to call it violence or whatever, target it properly. Don't aim it at a Black-owned business that is a small business, because you're just hurting yourself, kind of thing. But then he goes like, yeah, don't do this in Atlanta, man. This is Wakanda. Bro, shut up, man. Everything has to be Wakanda this, Wakanda that. Like, but my point is, the way I see it, yeah, Africa has the youngest population of all the continents for whatever reason. So the youngest population, which means it's got youth, exuberance, energy, whatever you want to call it, yeah. But African countries struggle to keep their young people in the country, in the same way that the only reason I was born and raised in London is because, well, I mean, with my dad it's a different situation, but my mum came here because of the lack of opportunities in Ghana. And a lot of people have the same story. Like their parents came over here because there was a lack of opportunities, want to build a better life, etc., etc., etc. And it's one where if we can build the things where it's like it's more of an appeal to stay in Africa, like effectively imagine if in a similar way to if you look at Singapore now, I don't see why somebody born in Singapore would like want to aspire to move to America or the UK. I understand if you go there for like uni or whatever, because American US unis are still quote unquote like prestigious unis, etc. But in terms of living and making a life, etc., the pull from these like Western countries, etc., isn't as big in a country like Singapore. Because
Singapore has a lot of its own issues, though.
it has its own issues, of course. But and no country
is very
without,
imperialistic.
Yeah, no countries without issues. No countries without issues. But I'm saying like, and I'm not saying like Singapore is some Mecca or some haven or whatever, and nor is Singapore the most developed country in the world or whatever. But I'm saying like, if you have it that your country is able to produce opportunities for its people, then the pull to go to the West is not as big. So then it's one where rather than Africa kind of bleeding out all their young people just leaving to go and build their wealth in other countries, and effectively build up the other countries and build up their economies, etc., with the incentive of sending some back, like the same way our parents came here and they'll send some money back to Ghana or wherever, but they're not building their wealth in that country. It's like an endless cycle, because African countries will never be able to develop fully, or never be able to become self-sustainable, like actually self-sustainable, because I would argue they're not self-sustainable right now. If your economic policy includes a section where you budget for Western aid, then how can you call yourself self-sufficient if you rely on Western aid to build your economic policies? Then you're not really self-sufficient. You're always requiring a handout, and the handout that is the what's it called, interest rate on it is crazy. You end up saddled with debt from the World Bank, IMF, etc. So you just end up, in the short term, you're able to develop and do whatever. In the long term, you're saddled with debt, and you're always like in debt to these countries. So you're never you're never free, essentially. So the way I see it, like, we have to take an active interest in Africa, and also have an active interest in investing or going to capitalize on opportunities there, because otherwise you'll have it where, like for example, Kenya, for example, they built like a railway line. The Chinese went and built them a railway line, and they signed on the deal. Basically, it was like, if they default on the loan, which has some crazy interest rate, if they default on the loan, they've given up their sovereignty of their port, which means the Chinese can come and just take over their port. Which is like, it sounds crazy, because how can you give up the sovereignty of the port? And obviously, on the surface, it sounds crazy. Like when you look beneath the surface, it's probably that some Kenyan politicians got paid off to give the port up as collateral for that loan. I'm saying, if we don't take action and invest in Africa, because all these countries and all these like the Western countries, all the stuff, China, etc., are investing in Africa. So there's clearly opportunity there. Otherwise, why would they be there? If we don't take an active interest in doing that, then we'll always be in a situation where we're basically begging them to treat us nicely over here, when there's not really an incentive for them to do that, because treating us nicely over here means their personal situation will be worse. If you ask for economic equality, that means the people with the higher the economic advantage, need to give up some of what they have to like allow you to lift yourself up, which I don't see that happening on a large scale, because we can't even get them to agree that Black lives even matter in the first place, bro. So how are you going to get them to agree Black lives matter and now agree, okay, so I'm going to give up a little bit of how much I earn so that Black businesses can thrive, etc. I just don't see it happening. So it's one where, like the way I see it, and I know I've been going on for a while, but I just feel like, bro, we've been begging them to treat us nicely for long enough. It's time that we take it into our own hands and just try and fix it. Like, obviously, continue fighting for equality here, because in the here and now, we still live here, we're still dealing with these things. But in the long term, it needs to be one where we don't even have to stay here. Like, we don't even, and then they'll see, like, bro, like, they'll see that they needed us, kind of thing. Like, if it's one where there was a mass exodus and everyone went back to their home nations, and I know that's not going to happen, but imagine if that were the case, yeah, this place would not be able to survive. Like,
I mean, a strong Africa. I agree that we needed a strong Africa. I'm in agreement there. My only thing is it needs to be the right kind of strength.
yeah,
Because like, for example, like I don't. So for Singapore, I don't even know that much about Singapore. I just know that they do have some of the same issues that are present here, just manifesting in a slightly different way because it's different populace. But so there's one quote from like a book which is like says like, they ask the question, can a white system evolve without white people? So like at a certain point in time, will the same system be in place but just without white people? Which I think it probably can.
I think it has.
And, yeah, and that's my one thing is like, we need a strong Africa, but in the right way.
Yeah,
and like I think there is the elements of that's happening, but like
I think you're definitely right.
You just need to think about how you wanna achieve a strong Africa, because just investing in Africa doesn't necessarily mean that
I feel like basically I feel like there needs to be an agreement across the diaspora that, or a recognition that the situation is going to be fucked until we've got a strong, like the motherland and all them places are strong. You know what I mean?
I mean that's the first step.
And then how that manifests is obviously different, because I'm speaking as a second-gen immigrant who goes to Ghana twice a year, or has been able to go to Ghana twice a year for the last almost decade. So obviously I'm coming from a different perspective, because I can easily, or easier than most, assimilate back into, if I were to move back, I'd be able to assimilate pretty easily. I know I've got family links there, etc. Some people don't have family ties there. Some people don't have land there. Some people haven't ever been there. So to some people, it's just another country kind of thing. And that's not even getting onto African Americans who don't even know which country they're originally from, for example.
I mean,
so that and so much, and it's like, yeah, do we encourage everyone to go back just to build a new Western society over there? Like, are they going to go back and effectively shit on African society or African culture when they get there? So there needs to be like an assimilation. So I'm not just saying everyone should just rock up and pick up and just jump over there. And I'm not saying that investment there will be the only thing that will fix it either. Especially like even thinking the LGBT community, is probably safer for them to be over here than in Africa, because a lot of countries are violently homophobic out there.
So yeah, I mean, there's like a lot of
there's issues basically.
Neo-colonialism. There's a lot of neo-colonialism still in Africa. So like, when you say we need a strong Africa, we do, but I'm just saying like, there's still work to be done there as well.
No, I'm not saying it's like an easy task in that, but I feel like it's stuff like, I always bring up the example of oil in Africa, because especially like specifically Nigeria, and Ola brought it up when at our event, he was saying how Nigeria's got the 8th largest oil reserves in the world. I think it's 8th, might even be bigger than that. But it's not got a Nigerian-owned refinery, or it's now Dangote just built one, I think. But I don't even know if it's finished. But like, for all these years, it hasn't had an African-owned refinery, which means they've got the crude oil, but it's not worthless. But it's not, until it's refined, its value is kind of capped. So it needs to be refined. So they always have to partner with a Western oil super major, or an American like super major to refine their oil. Then they have to buy back the oil at a premium before they can use it to provide power to their country. Hence why Nigeria has inconsistent energy across the grid, etc. Hence why Nigeria's, even though it's got one of the 8th largest, the 8th largest reserves of one of the world's most valuable natural resources, it's still got I think it was something like almost 50% of people live in poverty. Or it's either that or like almost 50% of people are unemployed or something like that. Like it's still got so many issues. And a lot of that is to do with the fact that there's, like you say, neo-colonialism in Africa. So it's like, and not only that as well, poor leadership too, to the sense that the leaders have effectively just become the oppressors. So it's like what you were saying about kind of white system exists without white people. Yeah, because the people that were doing the oppressing before were the white people, and now it's just the leaders and the corrupt people that are at the top of the system that are doing the exact same oppressing of the like Nigerian population. So it's like, but when I say we need to invest in Africa and stuff, it's like, now I asked my dad because in the Ghanaian context, Ghana's also got a bit of oil, and obviously not as much as Nigeria. And my dad does a lot of work to secure deals so that they what's it called? Securing deals so that there's oil and like fuel for the national grid, so that like Ghana has electricity, which is like something that you need to industrialize, urbanize, etc., and effectively develop as a country. You need a constant electricity production, electricity supply. And I was like, why is it the case that you have to get in bed with these like Russian companies or like Dutch companies, American companies, etc., to produce this thing? And he said, literally, there's two things. Like, number one is that to run an oil, to run a refinery, you need like minimum $600 million, which would effectively not almost bankrupt Ghana, but like they can't hack $600 million on their own to run it on their own. So there's that, which is partly because they've got to pay back these flipping World Bank debts and IMF debts and all this stuff, all these debts to these countries that have given them aid, which means they don't have the ability to effectively pull themselves out of poverty because they're always having to pay back the money that they borrowed to try and pull themselves out of poverty. So it's an endless cycle. So like I say, you're never free. Then there's that, and also they don't have the expertise. Like they don't, in the country, there's not enough engineers that can run a refinery, not enough Ghanaian engineers that can run a refinery. Hence why when Africa in the last decade has developed a lot of countries have seen a lot of development. Ghana's definitely has, Kenya, other countries have seen a lot of development, is because they've had to take loans from the Chinese, and China just come and import all their workers and they build everything for them. Like I saw this video about that, the train I was talking about in Kenya. Bruv, the Kenyan people working on the train are speaking Chinese to the Kenyan passengers. It doesn't make any sense. Why are they speaking Chinese? Like, why are you coming on the train and saying ni hao when it's a Kenyan train? Like the Chinese have built it, cool, but it's a Kenyan train, Kenyan passengers, Kenyan driver, yet you're speaking Chinese. It doesn't make sense. So it's like, when I see stuff like that, it's like, that's why when I say we need to invest, it's like, we need to we need to do something to break this cycle of neo-colonialism in the country, in the continent, because it's like, if we don't, it will never be a case where these countries are able to pull themselves out of the situations they're in. And it will never be the case that the general perception of Africa will be one of it being a charity case. The general like African young people won't be staying in the country to build their wealth and etc. And it's like, it's one where we'll always have this reliance on like, I feel like the reason we're in this situation anyway of protesting racism etc. is because we rely on the system, because we all live here, we all work here, we all etc. build our lives here. So it's like we rely on them, so we need the system to work for us to an extent so that we can have a comfortable life etc. But the point is, the system was never designed to work for us. So it's not like, we shouldn't be shocked when the system does this. Like when I found out recently that the police force used to be like the slave patrol in the US, then it's not a surprise that they're still killing black people, bruv. It was built to catch black people that were free slaves, people that had won their freedom. It was built to catch them and throw them back in the dungeons or wherever it was, or back on the plantations and stuff. So it's like, if the system was never designed to help you or to fix it, like, I don't know, I just feel like sometimes you have to get real and be like, we have to.
I mean, I agree. I'm just saying I don't want that same system to be implemented in Africa, which it definitely, there's a like possibility of that happening if you just
it's true.
just have to think about how you're investing or how. But I agree that a strong Africa is necessary. I think I'm on the same lines as you.
Yeah.
Just how to get that
Yeah.
done without just putting in place a same system.
Or exacerbating inequality, because a lot of these countries have a lot of inequality already. So if you come in, like, it's likely if someone from the West goes back to Africa, you're likely going to be living at least upper middle class. But you're not going to be going back and being a houseboy or something like that. So there's that too. So, bro, that's what I mean about being jaded, bro. It's just better to think about, and then by the time you're done, you're just like,
it's better to think about. It's a lot to
we've
think
been talking
about.
for an hour and we still haven't got anywhere. Not that we were tasked with solving racism, but like, you know what I mean,